6 months after the first human attack, Admiral Hyunwoo stood in the United Earth Council chambers on Luna, delivering his final report to the most powerful leaders of humanity. The war that everyone expected to last years had ended in complete victory for the human forces. The Valtharian Empire has ceased to exist as a unified government, he announced to the assembled delegates. What remains has been divided into 47 independent systems, most of which have requested human protection and assistance. President Haewon leaned forward in her chair. What about resistance? Are any Imperial forces still fighting? No, Madam President. The last holdout surrendered 3 weeks ago when Admiral Zethkul convinced them that continued resistance was pointless. Around the chamber, the representatives from Earth's nations were struggling to understand the magnitude of what had happened. 6 months ago, humanity had been confined to a single star system. Now they were the dominant military power in this entire region of the galaxy. Admiral, said the delegate from Brazil, how many human casualties did we suffer? Hyunwoo's expression became solemn. We lost 8 ships and 437 personnel during the entire campaign. The Empire lost over 3,000 ships and approximately 200,000 military personnel. The numbers were staggering. The most powerful empire in local space had been crushed by a species they considered primitive. The secret had been human tactics and psychology, not superior technology. General Sun Ho, who had taken over as military governor of the liberated territories, joined the briefing via holographic transmission from his headquarters on SciFiPrime. The transition to human administration has been remarkably smooth, he reported. Most of the former Imperial subjects actually prefer our leadership style. We treat all species as equals instead of ranking them by usefulness to the state. What about the Valtharians themselves? Asked the delegate from Japan. Mixed reactions. The military leadership is still bitter about their defeat, but the civilian population seems relieved. Many of them were unhappy with their own government's policies. Dr. Yu Jin, Earth's leading expert on alien psychology, had spent months studying why the Empire had collapsed so quickly. Her research would reshape how humanity approached interstellar relations. The fundamental problem was that the Empire had become complacent, she explained to the Council. They ruled through fear and technological superiority, but they had forgotten how to adapt to new challenges. When we introduced tactics they had never seen before, their entire military doctrine became useless. But how did we develop such effective tactics? Asked the delegate from Russia. We learned from Earth's own history. Humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We understand concepts like psychological warfare, rapid deployment, and coordinated attacks because we've used them against each other. The Empire had been at peace for so long that they had forgotten these lessons. Admiral Hyunwoo nodded in agreement. The Empire's ships were more advanced than ours, but their crews didn't know how to fight. They expected their enemies to behave predictably. When we didn't follow their rules, they couldn't adapt fast enough. The meeting was interrupted by an urgent message from Captain So-min, now promoted to Admiral and commanding humanity's exploration fleet. Madam President, came her transmission from deep space. We've made contact with representatives from the Andorian Federation. They want to establish diplomatic relations with Earth. This was the moment President Haewon had been preparing for. Other major powers in the galaxy had heard about humanity's victory over the Empire and wanted to know what kind of neighbors humans would be. What's their attitude, Admiral So-min? Respectful but cautious. They're offering a mutual non-aggression pact and trade agreements. I think they're worried we might decide to conquer them too. Hyunwoo smiled. That's understandable. From their perspective, an unknown species just destroyed the most powerful empire in local space. They want to make sure we're friendly. President Haewon made a decision that would define humanity's role in galactic politics. Tell the Androians that Earth is interested in peaceful cooperation with all species. We didn't fight the Empire to conquer territory. We fought to protect our freedom and the freedom of others. But even as humanity was establishing new diplomatic relationships, another threat was emerging from the depths of space. Commander Yunji's long-range scouts had detected something troubling. Admiral Hyunwoo, she reported from the bridge of the Gwangju's Ghost. I've been monitoring communications from beyond the old Imperial border. There's something calling itself the hegemony of Korth, and they're not happy about what we did to the Empire. What kind of threat are we looking at? Hard to say. Their technology seems more advanced than the Valtharians, and their military doctrine appears to be based on overwhelming force rather than the Empire's defensive strategies. This news sent a ripple of concern through the Earth Council. Just when humanity thought they could enjoy peace, another enemy was appearing. "Are they planning to attack us?" asked President Hei-Wan. "Unknown," replied Yunji. "But their communications suggest they view our expansion as a threat to their own territory. They're demanding that we withdraw from all former Imperial systems and return to our home system." Admiral Hyun-woo felt a familiar sensation in his stomach. It was the same feeling he had experienced when the Empire first threatened Earth 10 years ago. But this time was different. This time, humanity wasn't a helpless species trapped on one world. "Madam President," he said formally, "I request permission to begin preparations for a possible conflict with this hegemony." "Granted, but I want you to try diplomatic contact first. Maybe we can avoid another war." The attempt at diplomacy lasted exactly 4 hours. The hegemony's response to humanity's peaceful overtures was short and brutal. "Surrender immediately or be destroyed. You have 7 days to evacuate all systems beyond your homeworld." When President Hei-Wan read the message, she felt anger building inside her. Another alien empire was trying to threaten humanity. Another group of arrogant aliens thought they could bully the human race. "Admiral Hyun-woo," she said calmly, "how long would it take to mobilize our full fleet?" "The ships are already ready, Madam President. We learned from our experience with the Empire. Our forces are now permanently deployed and ready for immediate action. And our new allies? Would they support us in another war?" General Sunho answered from his command post. "I've been in contact with the leadership of the liberated systems. They remember what life was like under Imperial rule, and they don't want to go back to being slaves. If the hegemony attacks us, they'll fight alongside human forces." Dr. Yujin had been studying the intercepted hegemony communications. "Based on their language patterns and military organization, I believe they're more like the old Valtharian Empire than they realize. Same arrogance, same assumption that technological superiority guarantees victory." Admiral Hyun-woo walked to the large window that looked out over the lunar surface. In the distance, he could see Earth hanging in the black sky like a blue jewel. His homeworld was no longer defenseless. Humanity had proven itself in battle and gained powerful allies. "Madam President," he said without turning around, "I recommend we send a simple response to the hegemony." "What response?" "Tell them that humanity tried diplomacy once. It didn't work. If they want to threaten Earth, they're welcome to try. But they should ask the Valtharian Empire how that worked out." The message was sent, and the response came within hours. The hegemony was mobilizing their grand fleet and would arrive in human space within 30 days. But this time, humanity was ready. The lessons learned from fighting the Empire had been applied to building an even more effective military. Human shipyards were producing vessels at an unprecedented rate. Human allies were contributing their own ships and crews to the defense fleet. Most importantly, humanity had learned something about themselves during the war with the Empire. They were not just survivors. They were not just clever animals from a primitive world. They were the species that other species called when they needed protection from bullies and tyrants. Admiral Hyun-woo turned away from the window and faced the Council. "Members of the United Earth Council," he said formally. "It appears that the galaxy hasn't learned its lesson yet. Another empire wants to test humanity's resolve." He smiled grimly. "I suggest we teach them the same lesson we taught the Valtharians. Anyone who threatens Earth, threatens humanity's friends, or tries to enslave innocent species will face the full might of the human fleet." The vote was unanimous. Earth was going to war again, but this time they wouldn't be fighting alone. This time, they would be fighting as the leaders of a growing alliance of free worlds. The age of human expansion had truly begun. Grand Admiral Morthak's magnificent fleet finally arrived at the Kethvar system 3 days after the human attack. 500 of the Empire's finest warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, ready to crush the primitive humans who dared to challenge Imperial authority. But there was nothing to fight. The system was empty except for floating wreckage and a few automated defense platforms that the humans had left behind. "Where are they?" demanded Morthak from the bridge of his flagship, the mighty dreadnought Imperial Glory. "Sensors, full sweep. Find those human ships." "Sir," reported his sensor officer nervously, "I'm detecting 12 small installations on various asteroids and moons. They appear to be mining stations. Mining stations? Morthak was confused. Why would the humans be mining here? He got his answer 30 seconds later when the mining stations revealed themselves to be explosive devices. The humans had turned several asteroids into massive bombs, and they detonated simultaneously as the Imperial fleet moved deeper into the system. The explosions didn't destroy Morthak's ships, but they filled space with debris and electromagnetic interference that scrambled sensors and communications. In the chaos that followed, the Grand Admiral realized he had walked into another human trap. All ships withdraw to safe distance, he ordered, but his communications were being jammed by the humans' electronic warfare systems. Only half his fleet received the message. Meanwhile, Commander Boram was watching the Imperial fleet's confusion from her hidden command post on a captured space station. Her psychological warfare campaign was working even better than she had hoped. The Empire's communications are completely scrambled, she reported to Admiral Hyunwoo via quantum entanglement transmitter. Their fleet commanders don't know what orders they're supposed to follow. Excellent, replied Hyunwoo from his new position near the Veltar system. Begin Phase 5. It's time to show them what we're really capable of. Phase 5 was the most ambitious part of the human strategy. Instead of attacking border systems, they were going to strike at the Empire's core industrial worlds. Captain Wu Jin had been preparing for this mission for months. His ship, the Ulsan's Vengeance, was equipped with humanity's most advanced technology. A faster-than-light drive that could jump directly to any point in space, without using the predictable hyperspace lanes that other species relied on. Wu Jin, to strike force, he transmitted to the 12 ships under his command. Remember, we're not trying to conquer these worlds. We just want to show the Empire that nowhere is safe from human retaliation. The strike force vanished from space, reappearing seconds later in the heart of the Empire's most heavily defended system. The planet below was HFY, home to the Empire's largest shipyards and weapons factories. The Imperial defenders were caught completely off guard. Their sensors had been watching the hyperspace lanes, expecting any attack to come through normal FTL travel. They never imagined that the humans could simply appear in their backyard. Impossible, screamed the system commander, Admiral Kethvar. How did they get past our perimeter defenses? Wu Jin didn't waste time explaining. His ships launched a coordinated strike against the orbital shipyards, using precisely targeted kinetic weapons to destroy construction facilities while leaving the civilian areas untouched. This is Captain Wu Jin of the United Earth Fleet. He transmitted on all frequencies. We are not here to harm civilians. We are here to stop your military from threatening our homeworld. Surrender your defensive forces and we will withdraw peacefully. But Admiral Kethvar was too proud to surrender. He ordered his ships to attack, and the battle that followed demonstrated just how far human military technology had advanced. The Empire's ships fired energy weapons that the human shields absorbed easily. In return, the human kinetic cannons punched through Imperial armor like it was made of paper. Within an hour, HFY's defenses were destroyed. The shipyards that had been building vessels for the Imperial fleet were now burning wreckage. Wu Jin's force vanished as quickly as they had appeared, leaving behind only destruction and a very clear message. The Empire's core worlds were no longer safe. News of the attack spread throughout Imperial space within hours, causing panic among the military leadership. If humans could strike at HFY, they could attack anywhere. This changes everything, Supreme Admiral Kolnath told his staff during an emergency meeting. These humans have faster-than-light technology that we don't understand. They can appear anywhere without warning. Sir, said Intelligence Director Velnara, I'm receiving reports of similar attacks on Zentari Beta and Korthnal. The humans are hitting our industrial centers across the Empire. The psychological impact was devastating. For centuries, the Empire's core worlds had been safe from attack. Now human ships were appearing without warning, destroying military targets and vanishing before reinforcements could arrive. But the worst was yet to come. Major Tejo had been busy in the occupied systems, and he had discovered something that would change the course of the war. Command, this is Major Tejo, he reported from the surface of HFYPrime. I've been interviewing the local population. You need to hear what they're telling me. Go ahead, Major, replied Fleet Admiral Sung Jin from Earth. Sir, the Valtharians aren't the only species in the Empire. There are dozens of different aliens here, and most of them hate their Imperial overlords. The Empire conquered their world centuries ago, and has been exploiting them ever since. This was intelligence that changed everything. The humans had assumed they were fighting a unified empire, but the reality was very different. The Valtharian Empire was actually a collection of conquered species held together by force and fear. "Sir," continued Tejo, "several of the local leaders have approached me about joining our side. They want to rebel against the Empire, but they need our protection. President Haiwan made a decision that would reshape the galaxy. Major Tejo, you are authorized to accept any world that wishes to defect from the Empire. Offer them human protection in exchange for their cooperation." The effect was immediate and dramatic. Within days, entire star systems were declaring independence from imperial rule. The Rigelian Republic announced it was joining the Human Alliance. The Centauri Collective severed all ties with the Empire. Even some Valtharian colonies began asking for human protection from their own government. Supreme Admiral Kolnath watched his empire crumble on the tactical display. Red dots representing rebel systems were appearing faster than his staff could count them. "How many defections now?" he asked weakly. "Over 200 systems, sir. The rebellion is spreading faster than we can respond to it." But the final blow came from an unexpected source. Admiral Zethkol, commander of the Third Fleet and one of the Empire's most respected officers, had been thinking about everything that had happened. "Admiral," said his aide, "we've received orders to attack the human base at Veltar." Zethkol stared at the orders for a long moment, then made a decision that sealed the Empire's fate. "No, I will not sacrifice my ships and crews in a war we cannot win. Sir, send a message to the human fleet. Tell them that Admiral Zethkol and the Third Fleet wish to discuss terms for our surrender." When news of Zethkol's defection reached the Imperial capital, it triggered a complete collapse of military discipline. If one of their most loyal admirals was surrendering, why should anyone else continue fighting? Fleet after fleet began laying down their arms. Some Imperial commanders fled to distant systems. Others simply abandoned their posts and went home. The mighty Valtharian Empire, which had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years, was dissolving like salt in water. Commander Boram, monitoring Imperial communications from her hidden base, couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Admiral Hyunwoo," she transmitted, "you need to see this. The Empire is offering to negotiate a ceasefire." After 3 weeks of fighting, Hyunwoo was surprised. "What are their terms?" "They're offering to recognize human independence and withdraw from our border systems." Hyunwoo laughed. "Tell them it's too late for half measures. If they want to end this war, they need to surrender completely. No conditions, no negotiations. Complete and unconditional surrender." The message was sent to the Imperial capital, where Supreme Admiral Kolnath read it with growing despair. The humans weren't interested in peace. They wanted total victory. But unknown to the Empire, Admiral Hyunwoo had no intention of conquering the galaxy. His orders from Earth were clear: ensure humanity's safety and freedom. Once the Empire surrendered, the humans would help rebuild a better, more just government for all the species in this part of space. The age of the Valtharian Empire was ending. The age of human leadership in the galaxy was about to begin. Supreme Admiral Kolnath stared at the reports on his desk and felt something he had not experienced in decades: fear. 3 border systems had fallen in a single day, hundreds of Valtharian ships destroyed or captured. The attackers called themselves humans, a species that shouldn't even know how to leave their own star system. "This makes no sense," said General Morthek, pacing around the war room deep inside the Imperial Palace. "Our intelligence report said the humans were trapped on one planet. No space travel, no advanced weapons. How could they possibly attack us across hundreds of light years?" Kolnath activated his desk display. Holographic images showed the destroyed Valtharian ships floating in space around Kethvar. The damage was unlike anything he had ever seen. "Look at these weapon impacts. Their projectiles went straight through our shields. Our defense systems couldn't even slow them down." "Perhaps they have allies," suggested Admiral Zethkol, who commanded the Third Fleet. "One of the core world species helping them?" "No," replied Intelligence Director Velnara. "We monitored all traffic to and from their system. No alien ships visited Earth. These humans built their fleet by themselves." The High Council chamber erupted in angry voices. 12 of the Empire's most powerful leaders were shouting at each other, trying to make sense of the impossible. How could a primitive species defeat the mighty Valtharian military? Meanwhile, 2,000 light-years away, Major Tejo was walking through the captured garrison on HFY. His human soldiers had taken the base without losing a single person. The Valtharian defenders had surrendered as soon as they realized their situation was hopeless. "Sir," said Sergeant Yujin, "we've finished questioning the prisoners. You're going to want to hear this." Tejo followed her to the improvised interrogation room. Inside, a Valtharian officer was sitting at a simple table, looking defeated. The alien was tall and thin, with gray skin and large black eyes. His uniform was torn and dirty. "Tell him what you told me," Yujin instructed the prisoner. The Valtharian spoke slowly in broken human language. "Your people, you fight like nothing we have seen before. We train to fight other Imperial species. Slow battles. Careful movements. You attack everywhere at once, too fast, too aggressive." Tejo leaned forward. "How long has it been since your empire fought a real war?" "Real war?" The alien looked confused. "We are always at war. Small rebellions, border disputes." "No," said Tejo. "I mean a war where your survival was at stake, where you had to fight with everything you had or die." The prisoner thought for a long moment. "Not for maybe 300 years? The Korthak uprising was the last time we faced serious resistance." Yujin and Tejo exchanged glances. 300 years of easy victories had made the empire soft. They had forgotten how to fight against opponents who refused to give up. Back on Earth, President Haywan was meeting with Fleet Admiral Sung Jin in the ESO underground command center beneath Seoul. The room was filled with screens showing the positions of every human ship in space. "The first phase exceeded all expectations," reported Sung Jin. "We've captured 3 systems with minimal losses. The Empire's response has been slow and confused." Haywan nodded, but she looked worried. "What about Phase 2? "Already beginning. Admiral Hyunwoo is moving his fleet to the next target. We've identified 12 more systems that are lightly defended. And our production lines? Running at maximum capacity. The shipyards are completing 2 new vessels every day. If this war lasts more than a few months, we'll actually have more ships at the end than we started with." That was humanity's secret advantage. Earth had been building warships for 10 years, but they had been built to last and easy to repair. The Empire's ships were elegant and advanced, but they took years to construct and required specialized facilities to maintain. "Ma'am," said the communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the Imperial capital." "Let me hear it." The alien voice was proud and threatening. The translator computer provided subtitles. "This is the Valtharian Empire. We demand the immediate return of our territory and the surrender of all human military forces. You have 24 hours to comply." Haywan smiled coldly. "Send this reply. This is the President of United Earth. Your 24 hours started 10 years ago when you threatened our world. Your time is up." But the Empire was finally starting to organize a real response. Grand Admiral Morthak had been given command of the largest fleet in Imperial history. 500 warships from across the Empire were gathering at the staging area near SciFiPrime. "These humans cannot be as dangerous as the reports claim," Morthak told his fleet commanders during their strategy meeting. "They are using primitive projectile weapons. Their ships are crude compared to our technology." "Sir," said Captain Velkorth hesitantly, "the damage assessments from HFY suggest their weapons are actually quite effective." "Effective against unprepared border guards," snapped Morthak. "My fleet includes ships from the Imperial Guard, the best crews in the Empire. We will crush these upstart humans and teach the galaxy what happens to species that challenge the Empire." But even as Morthak planned his counterattack, human forces were already moving to their next targets. Colonel Yunji's stealth frigate Gwangju's Ghost had penetrated deep into Imperial space and was sending back intelligence about enemy fleet movements. "Admiral Hyunwoo," came her quiet transmission. "The Empire is massing a huge fleet at Zentari. I count at least 400 ships, maybe more. They're planning something big." From the bridge of Incheon's Pride, now hidden in an asteroid field light years away, Hyunwoo received the report with satisfaction. "Perfect. Signal Commander Boram. Tell her to begin Phase 3. Boram was humanity's expert in psychological warfare. For weeks, she had been preparing a campaign designed to destroy the Empire's confidence and coordination. Her team had infiltrated the Valtharian communication networks and was ready to spread confusion throughout their military. "Attention all human ships," Boram transmitted on a secured channel. "Operation Mindfog is now active. Every Imperial transmission you intercept should be modified before retransmission. Make them think we have twice as many ships as we actually do. Make them think we're attacking systems we're not even near. Within hours, the Empire's communication networks were flooded with false information. Reports of human attacks that never happened. Phantom fleets appearing and disappearing. Contradictory orders from different Imperial commanders. "Sir," called Intelligence Director Velnara, rushing into Supreme Admiral Kolneth's office. "We have reports of human fleets in 17 different systems." "They're everywhere." Kolneth studied the tactical display with growing horror. If the reports were accurate, the humans had somehow built a fleet of over 1,000 ships. That was impossible. Earth didn't have the resources. "This information can't be correct," he said weakly. "Sir, these reports are coming from our own commanders. Are you suggesting they're all lying?" But they weren't lying. They were just seeing things that weren't there, hearing transmissions that had been altered, and receiving sensor readings that had been modified by human electronic warfare specialists. The Empire's response became increasingly frantic and disorganized. Fleets were sent to defend systems that weren't under attack. Resources were wasted chasing ghosts. Imperial commanders began arguing with each other about conflicting orders. "Morthak to High Command," came one desperate transmission. "I need clarification on my orders. Am I supposed to attack the human fleet at Veltar or defend SciFiPrime?" "Both," replied Kolneth. "The humans are attacking everything simultaneously." But that wasn't true. The humans were following a carefully planned strategy, hitting selected targets while making the Empire think they were under attack everywhere at once. Major Taiho, now commanding all ground forces in the captured systems, received new orders from Earth. Begin Phase 4. Start accepting surrenders from any Imperial forces that want to defect. This was perhaps the most brilliant part of the human strategy. Instead of treating all aliens as enemies, they offered protection to any species that had been oppressed by the Empire. Within days, entire planets were declaring independence from Imperial rule and asking for human assistance. The Valtharian Empire, which had ruled the galaxy for centuries, was falling apart. Not because of superior technology or overwhelming force, but because humanity understood something the Empire had forgotten. Wars are won in the mind as much as on the battlefield. And right now, the Empire's mind was filled with panic, confusion, and fear. The attack began exactly at 600 Standard Time. Admiral Hyunwoo watched his tactical display as 57 human warships dropped their stealth systems and appeared like ghosts becoming real. The Valtharian patrol ships never saw it coming. "All fighters launch now," ordered Colonel Mi Young from the carrier Busan's Fury. Her voice was calm and professional, but Hyunwoo could hear the excitement underneath. This was the moment they had all trained for. 600 human fighters poured out of the carrier bays like angry wasps. Mi Young led the first squadron herself, her sleek interceptor cutting through space toward the nearest Valtharian patrol ship. The alien vessel was still trying to figure out what was happening when her missiles struck its engines. "Direct hit," reported Lieutenant Park from the weapons station. "Enemy patrol ship is dead in space." But that was just the beginning. Captain Dong Hyun's heavy cruiser Daegu's Hammer was moving toward the main Valtharian warships near the planet. The enemy was finally starting to react, but they were slow and confused. "Kinetic cannons fire," ordered Dong Hyun. The kinetic weapons were completely silent in space, but their effect was devastating. 6 metal rods, each weighing several tons and moving at enormous speed, struck the lead Valtharian cruiser. The alien ship's energy shields flickered and died as the solid projectiles punched through them like paper. "Impossible," came a transmission from the Valtharian ship. Jinho was translating their panicked communications. "Their weapons are penetrating our shields. How are they doing this?" Hyunwoo smiled grimly. The Empire had spent centuries perfecting shields that could stop energy weapons. They had never considered that someone might simply throw rocks at them very, very fast. "Second wave, begin your attack runs," he ordered. More human ships were decloaking throughout the system. The destroyer Incheon's blade appeared directly behind a group of Valtharian fighters, its rapid-fire cannons cutting them down before they could turn around. The frigate Sol's spear launched a spread of torpedoes that turned an enemy supply depot into expanding gas and metal. "Sir," called Somin from communications. "I'm getting distress calls from 2 other star systems. Our other attack groups are hitting their targets too." The plan was working perfectly. While the main fleet attacked Kethvar, 2 smaller human forces were striking the Empire's border posts at Veltar and Morkesh simultaneously. The Empire's defenders were being overwhelmed on 3 fronts at once. Enemy reinforcements coming in from the outer system, reported the sensor operator. Looks like they were hiding behind the gas giant. How many ships? 8 cruisers, maybe 15 smaller vessels. Yunwu nodded. He had expected this. Signal the Guangzhou's ghost. Tell Captain Yunji it's time for her surprise. The sleek frigate had been waiting in the shadow of an asteroid, completely invisible to Valtharian sensors. As the enemy reinforcements rushed past, Yunji activated her ship's experimental weapon system. Instead of projectiles or energy beams, the Guangzhou's ghost fired electromagnetic pulses that scrambled electronics. One by one, the Valtharian ships went dark as their control systems failed. They drifted helplessly while human fighters swarmed over them like predators attacking wounded prey. "This is Patrol Leader Vexithari," came a desperate alien transmission. Jinho was working hard to translate all the enemy communications. "We are under attack by unknown vessels. Their technology is completely different from anything in our databases. Send immediate reinforcements," replied another Valtharian voice. "These attackers are destroying everything." But the Empire's response was slow and confused. Their military commanders were arguing among themselves, trying to understand how a primitive species could launch such an effective attack. Some thought it might be a trick by one of their enemies. Others believed it was impossible and that the reports must be wrong. "Mi Young to all fighters," came the colonel's voice over the communication system. "The orbital defense platforms are down. Beginning attack runs on the surface installations." From his position on the bridge, Hyunwoo could see the planet Kethvar growing larger as his fleet moved closer. The world was mostly brown and red with small blue oceans. Several million Valtharians lived there, along with slaves from a dozen other species. "Sir?" said Jinho quietly. "I'm picking up civilian transmissions from the planet. They're terrified. Any military targets left? The spaceport has some defensive weapons. There's also a garrison base on the northern continent." Hyunwoo made a decision that would define how the galaxy saw humanity. "Signal all ships. We target only military installations. No attacks on civilian areas. We're liberators, not conquerors. Yes, sir." The human fighters dove toward the planet's surface with surgical precision. Mi Young's squadron destroyed the spaceport's weapons without harming the nearby city. Another group of fighters took out the garrison base's communications tower, leaving the Valtharian soldiers unable to coordinate their defense. "Dong Hyun to Fleet Command," came the captain's voice. "The Daegu's hammer has disabled the last enemy warship. System is secure." In less than 6 hours, the humans had completely destroyed the Empire's forces in the Kethvar system. 3 Valtharian cruisers were floating dead in space. Dozens of smaller ships had been captured or destroyed. The planet's defenses were gone, but this was just the beginning. Reports were coming in from the other attack sites. The Empire's border posts at Veltar and Morkesh had fallen even faster. Commander Boram's intelligence teams had done their work well. Every target had been exactly where they expected it to be. "Admiral," said Somin, "we're receiving a transmission from the Empire capital world." "Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was proud and angry, speaking the Empire's official language. Jinho translated quickly. "This is Supreme Admiral Kolneth of the Valtharian Empire. You will identify yourselves immediately and explain this unprovoked attack on Imperial territory." Hyunwoo smiled and activated his transmitter. Jinho had taught him how to speak a few words in the Empire's language, but he preferred to make his point in human terms. "This is Admiral Hyunwoo of the United Earth Fleet. Your empire threatened our world and our people. You called us clever animals. You planned to use us for experiments." He paused, letting that sink in. "Today you learn what happens when you threaten humanity. This is just the beginning. Surrender now or face the consequences." The response came quickly, filled with rage and disbelief. "Impossible. Humans are a primitive species. You have no interstellar capability. Tell that to your dead ships," Hyunwoo replied calmly, then cut the transmission. Around him, his officers were grinning. The first strike had succeeded beyond their wildest hopes. But Hyunwoo knew this was when things would get dangerous. The Empire would be angry now. They would send everything they had. "All ships prepare to move to Phase 2 positions," he ordered. "The Empire is going to hit back hard." But they still don't understand what they're really fighting. He looked out at the stars again, thinking about Earth so far away. His home planet was counting on him and his fleet to keep them safe. The Empire had made a mistake when they threatened humanity. Now they were going to pay for it. The stars looked different out here. Admiral Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the Incheon's Pride, watching the alien constellations through the thick viewing window. His fleet had been traveling for 3 months now, moving through the dark spaces between star systems where no one would think to look for them. "Admiral, we're getting close to the target zone," said Captain So-min from her position at the communications desk. Her ship, the Soul's Shadow, had been scouting ahead for weeks. "The Valtharian patrol ships are exactly where our spies said they would be." Hyunwoo nodded but didn't turn around. Behind him, the bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. Everyone knew how important this mission was. This wasn't just another military operation. This was humanity's first real strike against an alien empire that wanted to destroy Earth. "How many ships are we tracking?" asked Commander Jin Ho, the fleet's intelligence chief. He was a thin man with sharp eyes who never seemed to sleep. 12 patrol vessels in the outer system," So-min replied. 3 larger warships near the main planet. "The Valtharians think they're safe out here. Their crews are probably bored." Hyunwoo finally turned around. The bridge was dark except for the soft blue glow from the control panels. His officers looked tired but determined. They had all volunteered for this mission, knowing they might not come home. "Show me the tactical display," he ordered. A large holographic map appeared in the center of the bridge. It showed the Kethvar system with its yellow star, 5 planets, and the positions of all the enemy ships. The Valtharian Empire had controlled this area for over 200 years. They had never been attacked here. "Their ships are old," noted Lieutenant Park, the weapons officer. "Those patrol boats are at least 50 years behind our technology." "Don't underestimate them," warned Jin Ho. "The Empire has ruled the galaxy for a long time. They didn't get there by being weak." But Hyunwoo knew Jin Ho was wrong about one thing. The Empire had gotten weak. They had been in charge for so long that they had forgotten how to really fight. When they first found Earth 10 years ago, they had sent a single ship with a simple message: surrender or be destroyed. That had been their mistake. Humans didn't surrender. They fought back. The human government had pretended to consider the Empire's demands while secretly building the largest war fleet in Earth's history. Every nation had contributed ships, weapons, and people. The best scientists had worked day and night to create new technologies. The best generals had studied every piece of information they could find about the Empire's military. "Signal from the Busan's Fury," reported So-min. "Colonel Mi-young says her fighter squadrons are ready for launch." "Good, what about the other carriers?" "All 5 carrier groups report ready, sir. 600 fighters total." Hyunwoo walked over to his command chair. It was a simple seat with control panels on both armrests. Nothing fancy, nothing that might break when the shooting started. Human military equipment was built to work, not to look impressive. "Captain Dong-hyun, status on the kinetic weapons?" A gruff voice came through the communication system. "The Daegu's hammer is loaded and ready, Admiral. All 6 kinetic cannons are charged. We can put holes through anything the Empire has." The kinetic cannons were humanity's secret weapon. Instead of energy beams like most alien weapons, they fired solid metal rods at incredible speed. The Empire's shields were designed to stop laser blasts and plasma bolts. They had never faced weapons that threw actual objects. "Admiral," said Jin Ho quietly, "we're receiving Empire communications from the planet below." "Let me hear it." The alien voices sounded strange, like birds trying to speak human words. Jin Ho had studied their language for years and could translate. "They're talking about their patrol schedules," Jin Ho explained. "One commander is complaining that this assignment is boring. Another one is asking when they can return to the core worlds." "They have no idea we're here," said So-min with satisfaction. For 3 months, the human fleet had been using experimental stealth technology. The ships were covered with special materials that bent light around them, making them nearly invisible. Their engines were designed to produce very little heat. Even their communications used quantum entanglement, which couldn't be detected by normal sensors. "How long until we reach the attack position?" asked Hyunwoo. 14 hours, sir," replied the navigation officer. Hyunwoo stood up and walked to the front of the bridge. Through the window he could see some of his other ships. The stealth systems weren't perfect at close range. The Gwangju's Ghost, a sleek frigate, was barely visible as a faint outline against the stars. Beyond it, the massive bulk of the carrier Olsen's Vengeance looked like a moving mountain. This was the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled, 57 warships, including 8 carriers, 12 heavy cruisers, and 20 destroyers. Nearly 30,000 people, all volunteers, all ready to fight for Earth's freedom. Sir, said Jin-Ho, I'm picking up a long-range transmission from the Empire capital. What are they saying? Jin-Ho listened for a moment, then looked surprised. They're talking about Earth. They're calling us the clever animals from the third planet. One of their officials is suggesting that humans might make interesting research subjects. Anger flashed across Hyunwoo's face, but he controlled it quickly. Research subjects? Yes, sir. They're planning to capture some humans for their science laboratories. They want to study how our brains work. The bridge fell silent. Everyone had heard the stories about what the Empire did to species that resisted them. Entire planets had been turned into slave worlds. Billions of intelligent beings had been used for experiments. Well, said Hyunwoo calmly, I suppose we'll have to disappoint them. He activated the fleet-wide communication system. His voice would now be heard on every human ship. All ships, this is Admiral Hyunwoo. In 14 hours, we will begin our attack on the Valtharian Empire. For 10 years, they have threatened our world. They think we're just clever animals. They plan to use us for experiments, he paused, looking out at the stars. Today we show them what humans really are. Today we show the galaxy that Earth will not be conquered. All ships prepare for battle. The future of humanity begins now. The response came immediately from every ship in the fleet. Thousands of voices speaking as one. For Earth. For humanity. The silent approach was almost over. Soon, the Empire would learn what it meant to threaten the human race.